I overheard my fiancé whisper on the phone, "I'm only staying until he pays for my tuition." I waited until the semester tuition was due, then broke up with her the night before the payment deadline. Her panic attack was immediate when the payment failed. I, 28 male, am a senior actuary. For those who do not know what that is, I basically build risk models and calculate probabilities for a living. I assess threats, I manage variables, and I mitigate disasters before they happen. But somehow, I completely missed the massive, catastrophic risk living right inside my own apartment. My fiancée, 25 female, was in her second year of a brutally expensive, top-tier private law school. We had been together for 4 years and engaged for 1. When she got accepted into her dream program, we made a deal. She would focus entirely on her studies, and I would cover the rent, the utilities, the groceries, and her tuition. Her tuition was not a joke. We are talking $54,000 a semester. I had been diligently saving, heavily investing, and living way below my means for years just to ensure she could graduate completely debt-free. I drove an old car, brought my lunch to work every day, and skipped out on trips with my buddies. I viewed it as an investment in our shared future. She was supposed to be my partner in life. The massive crack in my reality happened on a random Tuesday afternoon in early November. I usually work from the office on Tuesdays, but an emergency server patch required me to monitor systems from home. I slipped into our apartment around 2 p.m. It was dead quiet. My fiancée did not know I was there. She was in the guest bedroom that we had converted into her study, and the door was cracked open just an inch or two. I walked softly toward the kitchen to grab a glass of water when I heard her voice. She was on the phone. I stopped in my tracks. I really did not mean to eavesdrop, but the tone of her voice was entirely different from how she usually spoke. It was not her usual stressed, tired law student voice that I was accustomed to. It was sharp. It was calculating. I know. Just a little over a week left, she said. A pause. Once the spring semester tuition clears, I am packing my bags. I cannot do this anymore. Absolute silence filled the hallway. I froze, my hand hovering right over the refrigerator handle. "Look, I cannot stand him either," she whispered, her voice laced with an intense irritation I had never once heard directed at me. "But I need that 50 grand to clear the bursar's office. If I leave now, I have to take out private student loans at a horrific interest rate. I have played the dutiful fiancé this long. 10 more days. Once the payment posts, I will start moving my things out." She was talking to her best friend, the same woman who sat at my dining table every other weekend eating dinners that I bought and cooked. I stood there for a few seconds, letting the words process. My brain, which is trained to isolate variables and manage fallout, completely detached from my emotions. I did not confront her. I did not kick the door open and start screaming. I just pulled my phone out of my pocket, hit the voice memo app, and recorded the next 2 minutes of her complaining about how annoying it was to pretend to love me while waiting for my money. Once I had enough, I quietly backed away from the kitchen, silently unlocked the front door, stepped out into the hallway, and walked down to my car. I sat in the driver's seat for 2 solid hours. My entire relationship was a transaction. My impending marriage was basically a hostage situation. She was not building a life with me. She was using me as a walking ATM to fund her exit strategy. The spring semester tuition deadline was exactly 10 days away, landing on a Friday. If a student failed to pay their balance by 5 p.m. on that specific Friday, they were administratively dropped from all of their classes. The university policy was absolute. No grace periods. No exceptions for non-payment. I started the engine of my car and drove back to my office. I had exactly 10 days to plan the absolute destruction of her little scheme. Over the next week, my fiancée really ramped up her performance. She was extra affectionate, bringing me coffee in the mornings and leaving little sweet notes on my laptop keyboard. It was honestly sickening to watch. Knowing the actual truth turned her sweet gestures into incredibly transparent, disgusting manipulation. But then she started getting greedy. She assumed she had me completely fooled, so she tried to change the parameters of our financial arrangement just to make things easier for her escape. We were eating dinner one night when she casually brought it up. "Hey, The school's payment portal has been super glitchy lately. Best friend said her payment got lost in the system for a whole week. Why do you not just wire the $54,000 directly to my checking account? I will just write a physical cashier's check to the bursar. It is way safer. I looked at her over my plate, keeping my expression entirely blank. She wanted the cash liquid. If I paid the school directly, she got an education. If I wired it to her personal account, she had a $54,000 runaway fund that she could just walk away with. My accountant already set up the ACH transfer directly to the university. I lied smoothly. It is way better for the tax paper trail. Do not worry about it, it will not glitch. She frowned, her loving mask slipping for just a fraction of a second before she forced a smile and went back to eating. The very next day, her mother called me. Her mother is a highly demanding, image-obsessed woman who has always treated me like I was insanely lucky to even be allowed in their family. You need to put that money in her account, Mother demanded the second I answered the phone, totally bypassing any normal greeting. A marriage is about trust. If you do not trust her to handle the tuition money, maybe you are not ready to be a husband at all. Frankly, you should be giving her extra for a wedding fund anyway, considering all the stress she is under. I agreed politely, told her mother I would think about it, and hung up the phone. The audacity was just staggering. They were clearly coordinating this whole thing. That night, while my fiancé was dead asleep, I took her iPad into the living room. We knew each other's passcodes, but I rarely ever looked at her devices. However, the rules of engagement had officially changed. I opened her messages. I scrolled right past the text with her. Best friend. I dug a little deeper and found a hidden chat thread saved under a fake female name. It was her ex-boyfriend. The messages were extensive. They had been sleeping together behind my back for 6 entire months. But as I kept reading, it got worse. Much, much worse. I found a PDF attachment in her sent folder to him. It was a residential lease agreement for a luxury apartment in a completely different state, scheduled to start the first week of January. She and her ex-boyfriend were both listed on the lease. But her ex-boyfriend has terrible credit and no real job. The leasing company required a guarantor to co-sign. I zoomed in on the signature line at the bottom of the document. There was my name. There was my social security number. She had straight up forged my signature and used my private information to guarantee a $4,000 a month lease for her and the man she was cheating on me with. She committed federal wire fraud and identity theft. I did not wake her up. I simply emailed the PDF and screenshots of the texts to my personal, secure email server and permanently deleted the evidence of my forwarded emails from her iPad. The next morning, I took the day off. I contacted the major credit bureaus and placed a hard security freeze on my entire credit profile. Then I walked straight into the local police precinct, handed them the printed documents, and established a formal, legal record of her fraud. I filed a police report for identity theft. Once I had the official police report number, I called the leasing office in that other state. I informed the property manager that the guarantor signature on that specific lease was forged using stolen credentials, and I provided them with my police report number for their legal department. The leasing office was not thrilled. They immediately canceled the application, flagged her file, and voided the entire agreement. She had absolutely no idea any of this was happening. She spent the rest of the week planning her grand exit, purposefully picking small, petty fights with me over dishes or laundry to lay the groundwork for our inevitable breakup. I just watched her do it, counting down the hours. Wednesday night rolled around, exactly 2 days before the Friday 5 p.m. tuition deadline. My fiancée sat next to me on the sofa, her leg bouncing with nervous, eager energy. "Did you submit the payment?" she asked, trying her hardest to sound casual while staring at my laptop. "Friday is the absolute cutoff." "I am doing it right now," I said. I opened my laptop. I logged into the university's official billing portal. I angled the screen just enough so she could see exactly what I was doing. I clicked on the Make a Payment tab. The current balance showed exactly $54,000. I selected Pay in Full. The portal asked for routing and account numbers for an ACH transfer. I slowly, deliberately typed the numbers in. What my fiancé did not know was that these specific numbers belonged to an old credit union checking account that I had officially closed over 3 years ago. The account literally did not exist anymore. I hit submit. The screen loaded for a second, and a big green checkmark appeared. Payment submitted. Processing. She exhaled a massive, heavy breath of relief. She actually leaned over and kissed my cheek. Thank you. You really have no idea what this means to me. Oh, I think I do, I replied. Because of how the ACH banking system works, large university portals often accept the initial submission immediately, granting the student temporary financial clearance. But it takes exactly 2 to 3 business days for the actual bank to communicate back to the portal that the account is closed and the funds do not exist. By doing it on Wednesday night, I ensured the timing would be absolute perfection. Friday morning arrived. She woke up in a fantastic mood. She packed 2 large suitcases for what she claimed was a study retreat with her best friend for the weekend. I knew for a fact she was planning to move her first load of boxes to a storage unit. I took the day off work again. I sat at the kitchen island, drinking my black coffee, just waiting. At 4:15 p.m., the ACH transfer finally bounced. The quiet peace of the apartment was shattered by the sound of her phone buzzing violently on the kitchen counter. She picked it up. She read the automated email. I watched the color completely and totally drain from her face. Her hands started trembling so violently that she dropped her phone right onto the hardwood floor. No, she gasped, her voice barely a whisper. No, no, no. Her panic attack was immediate. Her breathing became jagged, shallow gasps. She fell to her knees, frantically clawing for the phone, opening her student portal app. I could see the bright red banner stretching across her screen from where I sat. Account delinquent. Administrative withdrawal imminent. Deadline 5 p.m. The payment failed, she screamed, looking up at me with wild, terrified eyes. It bounced. Call your bank. Wire it right now. We have exactly 40 minutes. I took a slow sip of my coffee. I set the mug down perfectly on the center of the coaster. I looked her dead in the eyes. No. She stopped, gasping for a single second, pure confusion washing over her features. What do you mean no? The system glitched. Fix it. The system did not glitch, I said, my voice completely flat and calm. I used a closed bank account. There is no money coming. You are going to be dropped from your classes in exactly 35 minutes. She scrambled to her feet, her face twisting into absolute, unhinged rage. Are you insane? You promised. You are ruining my life. Wire the money. I reached into my pocket, pulled out my phone, and pressed play on the audio file I had recorded from the hallway. Once the spring semester tuition clears, I am packing my bags. I need that 50 grand. Once the payment posts, I will start moving my things out. Her own voice echoed loudly in the kitchen. She froze completely, her mouth hanging wide open. The entitlement and rage vanished in a split second, replaced by sheer, unadulterated terror. She realized I knew everything. I slid a printed piece of paper across the kitchen island. It was the canceled lease agreement. You also might want to call your ex-boyfriend. The leasing office canceled your luxury apartment. Turns out they really do not like it when you forge a guarantor's signature. The police did not like it much either when I handed them the identity theft report. The fallout was truly spectacular. When the absolute reality of her 3/3 situation hit her, she did not apologize. Highly entitled people never do. She lashed out. She screamed that I owed her this education because she had wasted her youth on me. She grabbed a coffee mug off the counter and threw it as hard as she could, shattering it against the wall. I calmly pointed my finger directly at the front door. Get your bags. The ones you already packed for your little retreat. Get out of my apartment. You have exactly 10 minutes before I call the police to remove a hostile trespasser. She left in absolute hysterics, dragging her suitcases down the hall while sobbing uncontrollably. An hour later, exactly at 5:01 p.m., she was administratively dropped from her entire law program. Without the financial clearance, she could not sit for her upcoming finals. Her academic career ground to a complete and total halt. The very next day, her mother showed up at my building, absolutely furious and threatening intense legal action. She cornered me in the lobby while I was checking my mail. "We are suing you for promissory estoppel," her mother shrieked, pointing a manicured finger aggressively at my chest. "You made a verbal contract to pay for her schooling. She relied on that promise. My lawyer is going to destroy you and take everything you own." I smiled. I actually could not help but smile. Promissory estoppel requires the plaintiff to act in good faith. I explained slowly, breaking the legal concepts down for her since her daughter was no longer in law school to do it. "Your daughter committed fraud. She forged my signature on a legal financial document to live with another man while trying to drain my bank account. In legal terms, it is called the unclean hands doctrine. She cannot sue for equity when she is guilty of deceit. Also, here is the official police report number for the identity theft she committed. If you try to sue me, I will personally hand every single piece of evidence of her felony wire fraud over to the district attorney." Her mother's jaw snapped shut so fast, I think she chipped a tooth. She turned completely pale, spun on her heels, and walked rapidly out of the building without saying another word. I never heard from their imaginary lawyer. Her ex-boyfriend dumped my ex-fiancée about 3 days later. He only wanted her because she was supposed to be bringing a freshly minted law degree and my stolen money to fund their new life together. When he realized she was broke, expelled, completely homeless, and under an active police investigation for lease fraud, he blocked her number on everything and disappeared. I had the apartment locks changed that same weekend. I moved the rest of her belongings into a cheap storage unit, paid for exactly 1 month, and mailed the key directly to her mother's house. I kept all of my savings. My credit is perfectly secure and locked down tight. I actually took a 2-week vacation to Japan with just a tiny fraction of the tuition money I had saved, eating incredible food and enjoying the absolute, unmatched peace of an empty, quiet apartment. Sometimes the trash takes itself out, but occasionally you have to be the one to open the chute and give it a really firm push. If you want to learn how to legally ruin a fraudster's life while keeping your bank account perfectly intact, hit that subscribe and follow button before your tuition is due.